Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
The sky cracks at dawn, the story they never told. Dawn had not yet had time to breathe when the world suddenly stopped. Not because of a disaster, nor because of a celebration, but because of one truth that finally dared to emerge to the surface. The earth seemed to stop spinning for a minute that froze the hearts of millions of people. Behind the cold screen of a cell phone, a short video opened a silent page. Taehyung appeared, but not as a star. He appeared as someone who had lost his words. No smile. No music. Only a look in his eyes that no longer shone, and a short sentence that slapped the world's hopes. It's time for me to be honest. And like a spark in a dry forest, the truth spread. Unstoppable. Unable to be taken back. When Jungkook receives an uninvited morning. Across town, Jungkook opened his day as usual. Coffee. Exercise. Silence. But all of that collapsed in one notification. He opened the message without suspicion, like someone opening a love letter, not knowing that the contents were a farewell. One click. One video. A world that collapsed silently. The people around him watched the change like watching a flower wither in an instant. His eyes lost their light. His hands grasped the air. One word barely came from his lips. Oh. Then he stood up. Without speaking. Without explaining. His phone was left on the table, as if the digital world had become his enemy. All he took were steps that were too heavy to leave alone. And from that moment on, Jungkook disappeared. Not from the world, but from the crowd. From the spotlight. From the lens. From the sound. We were never ready for the honest truth. The media began to guess. Fans were like heartbroken detectives, replaying old videos, looking for clues in smiles and glances that were once considered coincidences. Every moment now seemed like a puzzle that should have been solved long ago. The hug in Osaka. The long stare backstage. The cryptic lyrics that sounded like whispers of the soul. But no one really knew. Because they were both too good at hiding their pain in their songs. A source who was once close to them whispered to the world. He wasn't angry. He wasn't crying. He was just quiet. For a long time. Like he was waiting for something or someone. And perhaps that was the most painful thing of all. A silence that knew too much. The tea pendant and the letter that never arrived. A few days later, a photo surfaced online. Jungkook sat alone on a park bench. Dark hoodie. His head bowed. In his hand, a small pendant was clutched tightly, engraved with a single letter, T. There was no clarification. No statement. But the image was like a poem that needed no translation. Everyone understood it. Everyone felt it. Then, a songwriter who had worked with them on a secret project opened a little door to the past. There was one song that was never released. It was called The End That We Didn't Say. Instantly, the world listened. Not with its ears, but with its chest. When songs become letters and letters become prayers. The song, he said, was written late at night. In a small studio, just the two of them. A song that wasn't just a tune, but the last place they could be honest. But it was never released. Because sometimes the most sincere love is too fragile for others to hear. And then, an Instagram story appeared from their old friend. If you're still there, I still here. Instantly the world knew, this wasn't over. A sign in the no man's night. At night, in a small alley lit by dim lights, someone saw a figure wearing a mask and a hat. He was sticking a piece of paper to the wall. And though a light rain had washed away some of the contents, one sentence remained. Some stories are unfinished. But that doesn't mean they're meaningless. The fans knew that was it. And maybe that was what they needed most. A confession in silence. The 1 minute that changed everything. The next morning, Jungkook posted a 1-minute video. He sat in a dark studio. No music. Just silence. And one sentence. I can't explain everything. But I hear. I know. And I'm still here. It wasn't a statement. It wasn't a clarification. But it was more than enough. Because for those who loved her, a second of her gaze was worth 1,000 songs. They never spoke, but the world already knew. Now all eyes are on one question. Will The End We Didn't Say be released? Will there ever be a stage for them to stand on again, even just once? A music producer finally revealed. We will release the songs they wrote together. This isn't a project. This is a tribute. And like the first ray of light after a storm, the world held on to that hope. Because real love never really goes away. It just waits for the right moment to come back in another form. In silence, they rewrite destiny. The nights passed like blank sheets that refused to be written. The world was still waiting. Not with screams, but with bated breath. Like waiting for someone who promised to return, but never mentioned the time. The media tried to solve the puzzle with numbers, schedules, statistics. But love, or whatever it was that grew between them, could never be translated by logic. Only by feeling. Meanwhile, fanbase accounts began to stop speculating. They chose to be silent. But not silent because they surrendered. Silent because they understood that there was a story that could only be understood by two hearts that had once beat in the same rhythm. They don't need us to force an answer, wrote a large fanbase admin. They just need us to believe. An uninvited but vibrating voice. Then came the next surprise. Not from the two of them, but from an unexpected stage, a small music festival in a city far from the spotlight. An indie singer took the stage and sang a new song. The title was Echo Between Us. He didn't explain who wrote it. But the sound and lyrics were like a window that suddenly opened into the past. We sang without knowing it was goodbye / and in the quiet I still hear you breathe. Fans didn't need confirmation. They knew. They always knew. This wasn't just a song. This was the echo of a heart that hadn't finished speaking. Soon a new hashtag was born. Hashtag Echo Between Us. Hashtag Still With UT. Empty rooms and a studio that's lit. A fan then uploaded a photo of an old studio in Seoul with the lights on late at night. In the past few days, she said, someone had been coming in quietly. No crew. No manager. Just one voice from behind the glass, re-singing old lines that hadn't had a chance to be harmonized. Some said it was Taehyung. Others swore it was Jungkook. But whoever it was, their songs were coming back to life. Slowly. Quietly. But it couldn't be ignored. When the stage is no longer needed. Suddenly, a digital invitation appeared, not a concert, not a showcase. Just one sentence. Midnight. No camera. Just a song. The location, a small recording studio that once witnessed their beginnings. And in the middle of that night, only a few people were lucky enough to sit in silence, watching two shadows appear without any introduction. No introduction. No confession. Just the sound of a piano. And two voices that were once silent, now united again. They sang the end we didn't say. And when the song was over, there was no applause. No cheers. Just tears. Just silence. Because everyone knew, this wasn't for entertainment. This was a funeral. Or maybe a release. No ending. Just a new chapter. The next day there was no upload. No official statement. But the world had changed. Fans were no longer looking for certainty. Because they finally understood. They don't need to explain. We don't need to know everything. Because some stories aren't meant to be explained. They're meant to be felt. And in that feeling they remain. Not as a couple, not as friends, not as rumors. But as two souls who once filled each other and chose the quietest way to say goodbye, or perhaps see you later. Epilogue, the letter that never arrived. Years from now, maybe someone will find that note, tucked away in the back of an old lyric book. Written in a hesitant but sure hand. If one day the world no longer understands, let this song speak for us. Because you and I were once there, and that was enough. And so the story never really ends. It just changes form. Into the wind. Into a song. Into a memory that never dies. Epilogue, they never really left. Night has long fallen on the city and the phone screens are dark again. But in the hearts of the loyal viewers of this story, there is something that has not been extinguished. Like a candle that continues to burn even though it is no longer greeted by the wind, the story of Taehyung and Jungkook continues to survive. Not because of the sensation, but because of the sincerity that is felt even without sound. They may no longer appear together. There are no new photos, no live broadcasts that show togetherness like before. But the world has learned, true love does not always need to be announced. Sometimes it just needs silence to be heard more deeply. Among the hundreds of songs that are playing, among the video clips that suddenly appear on the timeline, we still find traces of them. Not just nostalgia, but a silent belief that two souls who were once united will never truly be separated. And maybe that's enough. Or maybe not. Because every great story needs a pause, not the end. So we ask you who have listened to this point, what do you feel about all of this? Do you think they'll ever speak again, whether in song, in a project, or even in another moment of silence? Leave your comments below. Share your thoughts, because sometimes the greatest stories aren't written by those who live them, but by those who believe them. And trust me, this story isn't over yet. We're preparing a sequel to this silent journey, new pieces of the world they left behind without a clue, but always with a hidden meaning. Maybe there will be new voices. Maybe there will be letters sent too late. Or even meetings that were never announced. So stay tuned, because true love always knows the way back home.
Good day, wake up, today's gonna be a good day.